My name is Elara. For the past 15 years, I've been an architect. I created spaces for life, light-filled homes with logical layouts and solid foundations. I believed in the power of structure, the importance of load-bearing walls, and the importance of every element having its place and purpose. I built my marriage to Liam on the same principles. He was my main project, my masterpiece. For 15 years, we built the edifice of our life together. We laid the foundation of youthful passion, erected walls of trust and shared memories, and roofed it all with plans for the future. Our home in a quiet London suburb, with its immaculate garden and floor-to-ceiling windows, was merely the physical embodiment of what I thought was an unbreakable union. Liam was my cornerstone. A brilliant cardiac surgeon, he saved lives with the same confidence with which I drew lines on a drawing board. He was a man of action, decisive and clear. His hands, capable of performing miracles on the operating table, gently held mine as we strolled through the park. His world consisted of clear diagnoses and treatment protocols, mine, of aesthetics and functionality. We complemented each other perfectly, like an arch and a column, creating a stable and beautiful structure. Our house smelled of freshly cut grass, the lemon pie I baked on Sundays, and the barely perceptible scent of hand sanitizer he carried from the hospital, the scent of his calling. We weren't just husband and wife, we were partners, co-authors of our shared project called life. I was so absorbed in maintaining the perfect facade of our building that I didn't notice cracks appearing in the foundation, the load-bearing walls giving way, and the roof leaking from the rains I stubbornly refused to see. Our first 10 years were like a perfectly executed architectural plan. Everything went according to plan. We met at university. I was studying architecture, he was studying medicine. Our romance was swift and effortless, like a sketch scribbled on a napkin at a CAF. He proposed at graduation, and we married a year later. We were young, ambitious, and truly in love. We climbed the career ladder together. I went from an assistant in a large firm to a partner in my own small firm. He from an intern to a leading cardiac surgeon at one of London's top clinics. We bought our first house together, small and cramped but ours. We renovated it ourselves, laughing and getting dirty with paint. We rejoiced at every small victory together. When we were both in our 30s, we decided we were ready for our biggest project, having a child. Our daughter, Olivia, was born on a sunny June morning. She was the light that filled our home. Liam turned out to be an amazing father. I watched with tenderness as his strong, surgeon-like hands carefully swaddled her tiny body, or as he cradled her for hours, singing lullabies in his low, soothing voice. We moved into a large house with a garden that I designed myself. Image of a modern house with a large garden. Life was full and happy. We had our traditions. Family dinners every night, without phones or television, Sunday trips out of town, an annual holiday at our favorite cottage in Cornwall, on the coast. We were a model family, the kind people look upon with mild envy. I loved Liam with the deep, quiet love of a grown woman. I loved his habits, his rare moments of vulnerability, when he returned from a major operation and silently laid his head on my lap. I knew every line on his face, every shade of his mood. He was my home, my fortress. I was sure our foundation was built to last, that our walls would withstand any earthquake. I didn't take one thing into account. Sometimes destruction doesn't come from the outside. Sometimes it begins from within, with a slow, unnoticeable rot. When Olivia turned 10, she went away to her first summer camp for 2 weeks. The house suddenly became empty and quiet. Liam and I were left alone, and the silence, instead of bringing us closer, became awkward. We suddenly realized we'd forgotten how to talk to each other unless the conversation was about Olivia. Our conversations were limited to mundane matters. What should I buy at the store? Have you paid the bills? Around the same time, Liam's hospital was undergoing a reorganization. He became the head of a new, large cardiac unit. It was a huge achievement, but also incredibly stressful. He began missing work, returning late, tired, and drained. Our family dinners ceased. Most often, I ate alone, leaving his portion in the oven. "I'm sorry," he'd say, kissing the top of my head before bed. "So much administrative work, meetings, reports. Everything will get better soon." I believed. I tried to be an understanding wife. I took on all the responsibilities of the house and Olivia so he could focus on his career. The name Anna began to crop up more and more often in his stories about work. Anna was the new administrator of his department. Young, energetic, a graduate of a prestigious business school. Anna is a real find. She's cleaned up such a mess of paperwork. Anna came up with a brilliant idea for streamlining the operations schedule. I didn't see anything suspicious in this. I was even glad he had such an effective assistant. He began to change. He began paying more attention to his appearance. He updated his wardrobe, started using a new, more fashionable perfume. He joined a gym. "You need to be in shape," he explained. "A management position requires it." I joked that he was going through a midlife crisis. He didn't laugh. One day, I stopped by his office to bring him a cup of tea. He was talking on the phone, his back to the door. No, of course, she doesn't know anything. "Yes, I'll be late today. Dinner with the Ministry of Health officials. Love." Hearing my footsteps, he quickly turned around and hung up. His face was tense. "Who called?" I asked as casually as I could. "From the hospital. The secretary," he replied, not looking me in the eye. "She reminded me about the meeting." But I heard tenderness in his voice when he said love. That's not the way to speak to secretaries. A cold knot formed in my stomach. I remained silent. Doubts, having taken up residence within me, began to grow like poison ivy, entangling our house. I began to notice things I'd previously ignored. His phone, which had once been lying around, was now always with him and password protected. His frequent business dinners and weekend conferences. His detachment. He stopped sharing his worries with me. He used to tell me about difficult situations, his fears and doubts. Now, to all my questions about work, he answered with a monosyllable, "Everything's fine." We lived in the same house, slept in the same bed, but an invisible glass wall had grown between us. I felt lonelier than ever. Olivia, returning from camp, also felt the change. "Dad has become a stranger," she told me one day. I attributed it to his fatigue and stress. I desperately clung to this thought because the alternative was too terrifying. One day, I was doing his laundry and found a receipt in his jacket pocket. A receipt from a jewelry store. The purchase had been made last week. A gold bracelet. It wasn't my gift, my birthday was still far away. I remembered he'd had a corporate party last week, from which he'd returned after midnight, smelling of wine and someone else's perfume. I put the receipt on his pillow. That evening, when he came home, I was waiting for him in the bedroom. He saw the receipt and his face went blank for a moment. "What is this?" he asked coldly. "I found it in your jacket. Is this a Christmas present for Olivia, perhaps? Did you decide to buy it early?" I was giving him a chance. A chance to lie or to tell the truth. "Yes," he answered without batting an eye. "Exactly. I wanted to surprise you." And in that moment, I realized he was lying. I'd known him for 15 years. I'd seen him lie. His voice took on a steely edge, and his gaze grew empty. But I swallowed the lie. I pretended to believe it. Because admitting the truth meant destroying everything. And I was an architect. I created, not destroyed. I decided it was an obsession, a temporary weakness, and that I, as a wise woman, had to save the family. I decided to fight. My struggle was pathetic and humiliating. I tried to win his attention back. I arranged romantic evenings that ended with him falling asleep in front of the TV. I bought new underwear that he ignored. I tried to talk to him, but I was met with a wall of polite indifference. I lost weight and worry filled my eyes. Friends began to notice that something was wrong with us. I told everyone that Liam was simply overtired at work. I defended him, covered for his lies, and became his accomplice. The denouement came 6 months later. It was our 15th anniversary. I hoped that this day would change something. That he would remember how much we meant to each other. In the morning, he congratulated me, gave me a bouquet of flowers, and left for work, promising to be back by 7. We were planning to go to our favorite restaurant. He wasn't there at 7. At 8, either. His phone was switched off. At 10, I started calling hospitals and morgues. At 11, he came into the house. He was drunk. Not just drunk, but seriously drunk. "Where have you been?" I asked, my voice shaking with fear and anger. "We were celebrating a successful surgery," he muttered, trying to take off his shoes. I saw a lipstick mark on the collar of his shirt. Bright red. I'd never worn lipstick like that. "Who were you with, Liam?" I asked icily. He looked up at me with drunken, cloudy eyes. "What difference does it make to you?" He spat. And that phrase was the last straw. 15 years of marriage, our daughter, our home, it all boiled down to that one sentence. "What difference does it make to you?" "Is it Anna?" I asked. He chuckled. "You're so predictable, Elara." It was confirmation. How long? A year. A year. For a whole year, he lived a double life. For a whole year, he lied to my face every day. Why? The question escaped my lips in a whisper. "Because I'm tired," he suddenly screamed. "I'm tired of this perfect house, of these perfect dinners, of your perfect perfection. With it, I'm alive. I'm breathing. And with you, I'm suffocating in this architectural box of yours." His words were more devastating than a blow. He took everything I'd created for us, for our family, and trampled it. He devalued my entire life, all my love. "Get out," I whispered. "What?" "Get out of my house. Now." He left. I heard his car start. I was left alone in the middle of our perfect living room, which had suddenly turned into ruins. I didn't cry. Inside was a scorched desert. I walked over to our wedding portrait, which hung above the fireplace. I pulled it off the wall and slammed it hard onto the floor. The glass shattered into 1,000 pieces. The edifice of our marriage collapsed. The first days after he left were like a thick fog. I told Olivia everything. It was a terrible blow for her. She cried and asked why Dad didn't love us anymore. I hugged her and told her that he loved her, but adults sometimes make mistakes. Explaining to a child the betrayal of a parent was the worst thing I've ever had to do. Liam moved in with her. He didn't try to get back together. He only sent a dry message: "I'm filing for divorce. My lawyer will contact yours." And then the dismantling of our lives began. Divorce isn't just a legal procedure. It's a public dissection of your relationship. Lawyers, courts, division of property. Everything that was ours became mine and his. He wanted to sell the house. The house I designed, the house our daughter grew up in. He said he needed his share of the money. I refused. I decided to fight for the house. Not because I needed it. Because it was the only thing left of our family, the only stable place for Olivia. An ugly battle began. His lawyer tried to prove I was a bad mother, that I worked too much and didn't spend time with my daughter. They subpoenaed our mutual friends, forcing them to testify. Some of them turned against me, siding with him. It was another betrayal. I only saw Liam in the courtroom. He sat across from me, distant and cold. He didn't look at me or Olivia, who had come with me several times. He looked only at his lawyer. The man who had sworn his undying love to me was now cold-bloodedly trying to take my house away from me and denigrate me in the eyes of my own child. It was the darkest period of my life. I barely slept and lost weight beyond recognition. My work ground to a halt. I couldn't create new projects while my own main project lay in ruins. I felt like an architect who had survived an earthquake that had destroyed his finest work and was now standing amid the rubble, unsure how to move on. The only thing keeping me going was Olivia. I had to be strong for her. The trial lasted almost 2 years. 2 years of hell. In the end, the court sided with me. The house remained mine, but I had to pay Liam his share. I had to go into massive debt, sell all my shares, and mortgage the company. But I kept the house for Olivia. Liam married Anna immediately after our divorce became official. They left London. He called Olivia occasionally, but their conversations were short and strained. He was barely involved in her life. When the legal battles were over, there was silence. And that silence was even more terrible. I no longer had to fight. I was left alone with my pain, with my debts, in this huge, empty house that reminded me of my failure. I sank into depression. I stopped leaving the house, stopped answering friends' calls. I sat in a chair all day, staring at the garden, which was starting to become overgrown with weeds. Just like my life, salvation came in the form of my daughter. One day, she came to me, hugged me, and said, "Mom, stop. You're an architect. You can build anything. Build yourself a new life." Her words were like an electric shock. She was right. I'd spent my whole life building for others. It was time to build something for myself. I started small. With the garden. I went outside and started pulling weeds. I worked all day until my muscles ached. I uprooted old, diseased bushes, planted new flowers. Each weed I pulled was like a release from resentment, pain, and the past. Then I tackled the house. I remodeled it. I knocked down the wall between the kitchen and the living room, creating one large, open space. I repainted the walls, changed the furniture. I got rid of things that reminded me of him. I was turning our home into my home. Gradually, very slowly, life began to return. I returned to work. My first project after my hiatus was unusual. I was asked to design a rehabilitation center for women who had survived domestic violence. I immersed myself in this work. I spoke with these women, listened to their stories, which were many times more terrifying than mine. I wanted to create more than just a building for them. I wanted to create a refuge for them. A space where they could feel safe, where they could begin to heal and rebuild their lives. Image of the bright and cozy interior of the rehabilitation center. Working on this project, I healed myself. I realized that ruins are not the end. They are the beginning. They are an opportunity to build something new on the old foundation. Something stronger, wiser. The center was built. On its opening day, one of the women came up to me and said, "Thank you. You build us more than just a home. You build us hope." At that moment I realized that I had found my new purpose. 5 years have passed since our divorce. Olivia is finishing high school and is planning to go to university. She has grown into a smart, strong, and sensitive young woman. We are best friends. The house no longer feels empty. It is filled with the laughter of her friends, music, and life. My garden is blooming. I have paid off almost all my debts. My company now specializes in social projects. I build homes for those who need them most. This work brings me satisfaction, not so much money as satisfaction. I never entered into another serious relationship. I wasn't looking for one. I learned to be happy with myself. My life is not a ruin. It is a new building that I built myself. It is not as perfect and symmetrical as the old one. It has asymmetries, there are scars, there are traces of past destruction. But it is strong. Its foundation is my own experience, my strength, my love for my daughter and for my business. Sometimes I get cards from Liam at Christmas. Short, formal congratulations.